Welcome to Networking Unleashed, Building Profitable Connections. I'm your host, Michael Foreman, and today we're pulling back the curtain on one of the most overlooked truths in business. People don't just buy what you sell, they buy why they should buy it from you. My guest knows that sales training isn't about fancy scripts or closing tricks. It's about understanding people, building trust, and creating lasting connections that drive real growth. We're also digging into the power of the pivot, why shifting your strategy at the right time can be the difference between thriving and just surviving. This is going to be a conversation packed with clarity, strategy, and action. So let's dive in. I'd like to welcome to the podcast today Stephen Davies. I would really like to explain what he does, but I'm going to let him explain it because he'll do such a much better job than I will. Stephen, welcome to the podcast. And why don't you give us a little bit about your background?
Thank you, Michael. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. And congratulations on your 100th podcast. That's absolutely fantastic. Well done.
Thank you.
Sales Geek. Sales Geek is a franchise network of, what's the best way of describing it? Ex VPs of sales, ex sales directors, entrepreneurs, everybody that's lived a big corporate life. And now we work with smaller businesses and help them with their sales training. We mentor people. We work as fractional sales directors. We go into businesses, and instead of them having to employ very expensive sales directors, we do it on a fractional basis. I've been myself an ex-VP of sales for a while now. I worked in corporate sales, in technology, in logistics. I've run my own telecoms company, so I'm well versed in all aspects of sales.
Okay, that's great. Do you want to tell me a little bit about how you got here from wherever you were in corporate? What made that decision for you?
Great question. Corporate sales is a lot of fun. The strategizing behind it is a lot of fun. But once you reach a certain level in corporate sales, you spend a lot of time managing upwards, which means you step away from actually being with a sales team. And I've always helped out my friends and my neighbors with their smaller businesses, but always on an unofficial basis. And at some point, especially when I moved over here, I figured, you know what? Corporate sales was fun. It was fun where I lived in Europe, spent a lot of time in Washington and New York. But maybe my talents lie elsewhere now. Maybe I can really drill down into helping the smaller businesses using the experience I've got to actually push out and expand themselves.
Okay. All right. So that gives us a little better of an understanding about where you came from. But let's go right into the questions. And I'm going to ask you a little about understanding the buyer's mentality. Why is it so important for businesses to truly understand why people buy from them, and how does it connect to building stronger networks?
Okay, so I'm going to bring up the Cracker Barrel example because
Okay.
that's my favorite. Cracker Barrel knew who was buying from them. They knew where people were buying from them. They knew when. They had all of this data. What they didn't recognize was why people were buying from them. And because they didn't recognize that, when they made the changes that they did, it all went wrong. Now, there are other issues behind that, but the fact remains they had no idea why the vast majority of people that were going to Cracker Barrel were actually going there. And you can pull that back to every single business. If they don't understand why their customers are buying from them, it's very easy for them to head off in the wrong direction, to advertise in the wrong place, to, to push the wrong buttons, if you like, for their customers. So I think in terms of bringing it back to networking, when you're standing up there and talking about your business to all of these people who you would hope will refer their customers and their friends to you, if you don't know why people are buying from you, that's never going to work.
That's true. That's true. And would you say that Cracker Barrel falls into the category of if it's not broken, don't fix it?
No, because it was broken. If you go
Okay.
back and look at their share price and you look at their sales were dropping off, they had to do something. But I think with Cracker Barrel's in Cracker Barrel's safe, I have the a mantra of evolution, not revolution, when it comes to sales and when it comes to marketing. It's the same with car companies. You never see very many car companies going from one design straight to something that's completely different. It puts customers off. If they're used to one thing, you can change it slowly over time. And if you look at cars, you can see that evolution. But with Cracker Barrel, that's not what they did. They went from here to here, and everybody went, whoa, hold on, this is too fast. Most people don't like change. And if you change things that, especially if they go in there for comfort, that's never going to work.
You're right on, right on. Okay, let's go a little bit beyond the close then. You've said sales training isn't just about closing deals. How should professionals shift their focus when it comes to building relationships that lead to sales?
That I love that question. And I love that question because I have a bugbear, and my bugbear is AI. I think what's happening, look, people buy authenticity. People buy, it's a cliche, but people do buy from people. And more, there's a massive disconnect between how people are presenting themselves online in networking events and who they actually are. Because they're asking AI to write their scripts, they write their elevator pitches, and that's not you. And what's happening is that everybody is starting to sound the same. If you can't get away from that, then who's buying who? What are you buying? Who are you buying? Because you always buy a person, not necessarily a product.
You've seen me in networking events, networking meetings, and I'm behind you 100%. Authenticity is what makes us different. Now, I use AI to write articles and things like that, but for networking events, it's all me. And
Yep.
listen, if you don't like me, then I can't help that because there's a mantra: know you, like you, trust you, do
Mhm.
business with you. Now, everybody knows you. Hey, look, you're a great guy. Like you, that narrows the field down just a little bit because not everybody's going to like you. But trust you, that's a deciding factor because, like I said, nobody will buy from you unless they trust you, and they won't trust you unless you're authentic.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's go into the sales training a little bit. How can networking itself be one of the most powerful sales training tools a business has?
How can networking be a sales training tool? I
Great.
love that question.
So
Pushing
do I.
out, yeah. When you go to a networking event, you are forced to present yourself in a certain way. You have to know your business. You have to understand how to communicate the value points of your business, not just to the people in the room, but you're selling through them. So you have to be really spot on in, okay, this is why people buy from me. This is who I am. This is what I do. This is why I do what I do. You have to build that authenticity and that trust. From a sales perspective, that is probably the best sales training you could come up with for a lot of people. Most people are put off from sales training because they see the clips online of 200 people in a room and you've got somebody standing at the front and they're big and they're bold and you've got to close this and you've got to close this. I want to see 100 deals in the pipeline by this point. And then that's not relevant to most people. They're never going to be in that position where they're needing to push a hard sale, especially small business owners in networking events. What they're looking for is, how do I present my business well?
Now, listen, I'm a firm believer. I use the pandemic as a mark in time. Before the pandemic, things were very transactional. Networking was very transactional. I've got a widget to sell. Oh, I've got $3. I'll trade you, and you build up a customer list. But after the pandemic, for about 5 years now, networking is more relational, relationship. And it's because I feel that networking is the base of all businesses. And as you said, you have to really know your stuff. You have to be authentic and you have to sell what you were saying through the person because you're not just selling to those people, you're selling to their network of people.
Yeah.
So you really better be spot on to what you're selling and what you're saying if you want that to happen.
Yeah, you're dead right there, Michael. The big thing about going to a networking event, especially things like the Chamber of Commerce or other closed networking events, you've got maybe 30 or 40 people in the room. So if you go with the mindset of, I'm going to sell to you, I want you to be my customers, you might get maybe 10, depending on the service or product you're selling. But if you go with the mindset of, I want to educate these people so they can then go out and sell my product on my behalf, then you've got a massive network that you can sell to.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I can't emphasize this enough because when you're in, let's say, a chamber meeting, because that's where we met,
Absolutely.
but you're not selling to those people exactly. You're selling to their network of people.
Yep.
So you always have to keep that in mind. And I'll get into the follow up and everything of that later on, but it is so important for you to keep that in mind that, oh, I just don't want to sell to Stephen. I want to sell to Stephen's network.
And that
And that's all.
network isn't just their customers, that network is their family and friends. It's every relationship they've got.
Absolutely. Listen, I'm the networking guy, right? And I always say you network wherever you go. If you're online at the grocery store, or if you're online in a department store and somebody's talking about something in your field or not, you can turn around, give your 2 cents as long as it's intelligent. You can give your 2 cents and turn back around. And if you did your job correctly, they're going to tap you on the shoulder and say, what do you mean by that? Or, that's right, but what about this? And that starts the conversation. All you have to do is start the conversation. And if you're worth your salt, then it will go far.
Here's a great example of how the networking works or how well it can work. So I had lunch with a chiropractor in my network yesterday, and I had my hair cut today. And the lady cutting my hair was talking about the fact she just had a car accident and she needed to go and see a chiropractor. And she was talking about some issues she had previously with the chiropractor. And I mentioned something that the chiropractor I met yesterday said. And she went, oh, is that? And I went, yes, it is. And she's the third person that's mentioned that chiropractor. I'm going to go see them.
Power of
It's that
networking.
word of mouth.
Absolutely. The power of networking. It's how you do it. And you're not pushing yourself on the person. You're not pushing whoever you're trying to refer on the person, but you're just saying a few facts, few good logical facts, and let it go where it goes. So
Yep.
that's the perfect way. And listen, I am known throughout the area as being a connector. I like to connect two people, just like you just did. I like to connect two people together. This person does, this person is in need of it, and I'm away. I pushed away.
Yep.
I said, okay, look, I put you two together, go have it. Go have at it. And you know what? It's a really good feeling. It's a
It
really
is.
good feeling. Yeah. Okay.
And
So,
then
oh,
you
go
get
ahead.
back into the reciprocal side of that, in that you give and people will
Well,
give back to you.
absolutely. When you network, you have a what's called a servant's heart. You givers gain. So when you go to a networking event, you look to help everybody else. And by you referring somebody else, and again, this falls into the follow up and everything else, but it takes all the pressure off of you. You enjoy yourself. And you say, look, I put these two people together. Okay, that's great. And eventually they're going to refer you. Okay. In your experience, how does knowing when to pivot your strategy or tactics directly impact the quality of your network and business success?
Pivoting someone's business or pivoting your own business is something that is very scary for a lot of people to do. They've gone into their business with an idea of, this is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to do it. This is why I'm doing it. And there's a lot of people have an ethos of, I'm going to stick by my principles, which is fine. But in business, you have to recognize when something either isn't working, or not necessarily isn't working, but is something better going to work faster for me? Am I putting my efforts into the wrong channel? That's a great example. The difference between working through a channel, which is networking. When if you think about it, channel sales, you're asking other people to sell your business for you, albeit they get a financial reward for it. But it's still the same thing. You have to get somebody else to sell your business, or whether direct sales is best, or whether internet sales is best. Is it better do you have a business where picking up the phone and talking to people is the right way to sell your business? You have to, as a business owner or as a sales team manager, be able to look at your business and go, I'm going to make the change. I can make the change. And if I can't make the change, but I want to make the change, who do I bring in to help me make the change? Who do I ask? How do I ask for help?
That, of course, involves a mentor or somebody else that can coach you or something. Listen, I mentor certain people already, but I am always being mentored. I'm always being coached by somebody else. So I'm being coached by somebody else, yet I am mentoring, I think it's 6 people right now. I'm coaching 6 people. So, you know what? You never stop learning. You never stop changing. You never stop trying to do it better, because there's always a better way. There's always a better way.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
Every day is a school day.
Every day is a school day. I try to learn something every single day. Every day that I don't, I feel like, oh, I didn't learn anything today. It was almost like a wasted day, because I feel that people tend to call me a networking expert. And I hate that term, expert, because that means that you've learned everything. And I haven't, and I'm always learning. So yeah, I've been known as a networking guru, how to make sales stronger, everything else, but I am always learning, always picking up something new. Okay. What role does trust play in both networking and sales, and how do you recommend people earn it instead of just asking for it?
Trust is the most important aspect of sales. Unless you're selling a commodity where it is price,
Right.
people are only going to buy from you if they trust you. And people will only trust you, as you said previously, if they know you. You have to be authentic in sales. You have to put yourself out there. And in many cases, you have to step across a boundary where you feel fear, especially in networking. That in many cases in networking, you have to stand up in front of 40, 50 people and say your piece. And you have to be confident enough to do that. So people will look at you and go, yeah, okay, I understand that. I get that. But you also have to make mistakes, and you have to be comfortable making those mistakes. You have to be comfortable being uncomfortable, as my tennis coach used to say all the time. That's the authenticity of it. And that's where, if you're standing up there and you're reading from a sheet of paper that is clearly an AI elevator pitch, where's the authenticity? Where's that trust going to be developed? Because if you're standing there talking that way and you're not showing who you are, when it comes to your business, people are going to look at the business and go, am I seeing exactly what the business is? If I'm not seeing what who the person is, what's the business? What's the product?
Absolutely. And as you're speaking, I'm just thinking about my mentor and what she said, that what make mistakes, own the mistakes, make fun of the mistakes,
Yep.
and then move on. If you own the mistake and you move on, they can't say anything except that they know you're human.
Yeah. That's such an important point. We all make mistakes. We all stutter over words. We all say the wrong words. We all forget a sheet of paper every now and again. Everybody does it. If you're comfortable doing that and you just accept that everybody does it and I've done it again, that's the authenticity that people are looking for. You buy from a human. You
Yes.
buy from someone that's like you.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. I could have said it better myself. I could have said it better. Okay. So, how can professionals uncover the deeper motivations of their buyers through networking conversations rather than traditional sales pitches?
That's asking questions.
Yes.
It's pure and simple as that. Be curious.
Yep.
And if you look at if you don't treat your network, or the people in your very close networking group, as your customers, treat them as peers, treat them as people you can ask questions to. Hey, so I've got this new idea for a product. What do you think? Do you know anybody that might be interested in buying this? Why would that be? Who do you think in your network wouldn't buy this? Why do you think that would be? Ask questions, be curious, be open.
Absolutely. And that was the best answer I can possibly think of, because asking questions always is the right idea. Anytime you want to get to know somebody or whatever they're trying to sell or whether they have, you are a problem solver. The only way that you can get to the root of the problem is to ask questions about their problem. Once you find out what their problem is, then you can solve it.
Yep.
Then you can solve it. But those questions, very important.
I like to
Uh,
look at it. So I have anybody that's had a sort of 7 to 10-year-old child, they know when they have a problem. You can't get to the root of that problem until you ask questions. And it's not a case of asking one question and getting a straight answer. It's what was school like? Fine. Okay. And then you have to start drilling down. And that's a great way of looking at, okay, how do I ask questions about my sales technique? How do I ask questions about my product? How do I ask questions about who I need to sell to, my customers? Think about it like you're asking a child and you need to pull that information from a child.
That's a very good way of thinking about it. I hadn't thought about that until just now. And that is a great way to think about how to pose your questions, because the first question, you're not going to get an answer. The second question, you're not going to get an answer. You're not going to get an answer or something around the answer till the fifth, sixth, or seventh question. So
Yeah,
you're literally pulling the information out from them. So, yeah, so if you don't mind, I'm going to use that from now on.
absolutely. Go for it.
Okay, what are the biggest mistakes businesses make when it comes to networking for sales growth, and how can they avoid them?
The biggest mistake is selling to the room. Don't sell to the person you're talking to. It's an immediate turn off. It's like opening the door. You open the front door and there's someone standing there and they've got they've got a t-shirt on and it's so-and-so roofing or it's so-and-so driveways or it's pressure washing, whatever it is. Your heart just goes, ugh, and you immediately go on the defensive. You feel you're being sold to. And as a salesperson, it's completely the wrong way of doing it. Now, absolutely, these companies make money. There's no question about that. But from a sales perspective in a networking event, it's the last thing you want. What you're going to start seeing if you go straight in, I'm going to sell to with that mindset of I'm going to sell to you, is people looking around straight away, looking for an escape route. That's not the way to do it. Again, that's not building trust. You're immediately asking someone to put a wall up.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I say in my workshops, my presentations, is people love to buy, but they hate to be sold to. And you always have to have that mentality when you talk with anybody. And I tell everybody, I said, look, when you just meet somebody or you go to a networking event or meeting with somebody one-on-one, it doesn't make a difference. Never talk business the first 10 minutes. Never talk about anything. I use something called FORM, family, occupation, recreation, and a message. Pick any one of the above. And family, sister, brother, husband, wife, son, daughter, doesn't make a difference. Youth sports, big one if they have children. You know,
Absolutely.
it's right. Listen, I was a baseball coach for 16 years. I was an umpire for 3 more years. So you want to talk about youth baseball? I'll talk about till your ears fall off. But you're talking about everything but business and what's happening. Now, everybody has a wall in front of them, and that wall is slowly coming down, and that trust factor is going up. So the more they're talking, because people love to talk about themselves, they'll talk about themselves till they're blue in the face. But you're talking to them, they feel more comfortable with you when you can start to sneak in those questions, but never come out and start with it. Okay. How do you help professionals shift their mindset from viewing sales as a transaction to viewing it as a relationship building process? This goes right
Lot,
along with what we're talking about.
yeah. That becomes a thing of longevity. A business that is going out to sell will sell to a certain point, but then what? Where do you go from there? You've got no long-term relationships with people. You're not selling through people because you're selling transactionally, you're selling a commodity. You're in a race to the bottom because selling like that is always going to come down to cost. And unless that's your business, your mantra, if you like, is I'm going to be the lowest common denominator, you're going to run up against problems again and again. Explaining to a business person, okay, this is great now. Where are you going to be in 3 years if you stick with that model? Where's the market going to go? How big is the market? How do you expand? How do you get other people to sell what you're selling if you're at the lowest common denominator and just selling transactionally? It's about an education process of look to the future.
That's absolutely right. And listen, this all goes back to what we've been talking about at the beginning, the relationship building process. It's not transactional anymore, it's relationship building. And really, the more you can do that, the better. I used to be in the mortgage industry, and I used to go to networking events because mortgage people love networking events. I used to come home with a shoebox filled with business cards and say, look how good I did. When what? I didn't do well at all. I did not. So now, if I get 15 or 20 business cards in a 3 hour event, I'm fine
Yeah.
because I built that relationship with each of those people.
I would rather have 3 exceptionally good conversations in a room full of 50 people than come home with 20 business cards.
Absolutely. I'm behind you 100%. 100%. Okay. Can networking itself reveal when it's time to pivot in business? And if so, how's it happen?
Yes, it can. And it can because if you're listening and asking the right questions in your networking event, you're going to understand the market. You're going to, like, somebody will mention, oh, so yeah, you do that. I know a company that used to do that, but now they're doing this. Great example of this: pressure washing companies. So pressure washing companies, they go out and they pressure wash the house and they pressure wash the driveway and they do all these things. Seasonally, all of a sudden, you've got an opportunity there because it's Christmas. And what have you got? You've got ladders, and you've got lots of ladders, and you've got crews going around. And what are people looking to do? They're looking to get up on their roof and they're looking to put their lights up. once you see someone else talking about doing that in a networking event, if you're a pressure washing company, if you're a window cleaner, okay, now I get that. I can do that. And that's a really simple pivot in a very short period of time. That's not a permanent pivot, but it's a definite extra arrow to the bow or string to the bow.
Absolutely. And that's a very good example, by the way, because I can think of two pressure washing companies now that just made that pivot. So you're right on target. Okay, so let's bring this podcast full circle and kind of talk looking into the future a little bit. Looking ahead, what skills or strategies do you believe every business leader must adopt to connect, sell, and stay profitable in a rapidly changing market?
They need to understand where their market is going. Not look around and go, what's the stock market doing? Not look around and go, where's the economy going? You have to be aware of those things. But your individual market, who are you selling to? Who are your customers? Why? And it comes back to, why are your customers buying from you? Are they buying? And I love using the mantra, pure. Why are they buying? C, convenience. Perhaps. U, uniqueness. Are they buying that? Relationships or expense or cost? If you can understand which one of those your customers are buying, but the reasoning they're buying from you, then you're able to look at your market better and understand why your customers are or are not going to buy. You need to protect yourself by understanding your market and your business, not necessarily just the wider market.
Absolutely. And I just had a client, he said that what he has to offer, five other people are offering the same exact thing for just about the same price. How can he be different? I said, well, the difference is very simple. It's you. You have to make yourself different. You have to make yourself more accessible. You have to make, let me go back a little bit, okay? When you're first meeting these people on LinkedIn and they immediately say, I've got this to sell and I've got this to sell. Why is that a turnoff? Because there's no relationship. So if you bring a little value to that relationship, the first time, the second time, the third time that you made the connection and you're bringing them value, now you've just made yourself above everybody else. So you have
Absolutely.
created that relationship. So it was very good.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's
go
the
ahead.
standing up and saying, what makes you different? I value my customers. Well, I talk to my customers. That's not unique. What
Right.
show me how you're going to do that. And that's where the value of networking comes in, because you're able to, as you do, join people together. You bring something to the table and you give that to somebody, then someone is more likely to give something back to you.
That's it. That's it in a nutshell. You said that very well. Stephen, I have to tell you, this was a great podcast. And if they wanted to get hold of you, have Sales Geek come into their office and either have a fractional sales director or not, or just talk to you about being coached, how can they get hold of you?
Very simple. My email address is Steve, Steve, at salesgeekcsg.com. And my phone number is 404 989 7189. And I'll be happy to talk to everybody about networking and sales.
That's great. Steve, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. You're a great guest.
Thank you, Michael. I really appreciate it. It's great fun.
Hold on, folks. Don't go anywhere. Let's hear from our sponsors. David Neal, co-founder, Revved Up Kids. Revved Up Kids is on a mission to protect children and teens from sexual abuse, exploitation, and trafficking. They provide prevention training programs for children, teens, and adults. To learn more, go to revvedupkids.org. Henry Kaplan, Century 21. When it comes to making the biggest financial decision of your life, leave it in the hands of a proven professional, Henry Kaplan. Henry is a global real estate agent with Century 21, celebrating his 41st year in business. No matter where you're moving, Henry has the right connections for you. You can contact Henry at 561 427 4888. A wrap, folks. A huge thank you to our guest for sharing such incredible insights today. And of course, a big shout out to you, our amazing listeners, for tuning in and spending your time with us. If you're interested in my digital courses, being coached, or having me come and talk to your company, just go to Michael and fill out the request form. Remember, networking isn't about being perfect, it's about being present. So take what you've learned today, get out there, and make some meaningful connections. If you've enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with someone who could use a little networking inspiration. Let's keep the conversation going. You can find me on Apple, Spotify, Pandora, YouTube, or my website, forman.com/podcasts.